How's everybody doing? Yeah. Everybody having a good time so far? Yeah. Nice. All right, so my name is Jonathan G. Blanco, and I am the founder and CEO of Niftmint. This is our office here in Seattle, so hopefully everybody's having a good time today. And round of applause to Aaron and the team for good food, dinner, lunch is good, hopefully. So yeah, like I said, I'm Jonathan. I am the founder and CEO of Niftmint. What we do is we create digital twins for product authentication as a method to help prevent counterfeit goods, and as well as to boost what we call post-transaction engagement for brands. Okay, so when blockchain is all about trust, right? Most consumers trust the brands that they purchase from. So I'm sure there's a few of you that really like the shoes that you're wearing or the hats that you're wearing. You're buying those hats because you like that brand, you like the way it feels, you like the branding itself. There's some level of nostalgia there. So there's a little bit of a layer of trust there that you might not necessarily need blockchain for to make your decision on whether or not you purchase from that brand, because there's a layer of trust. But even within that layer of trust, the second that other people get involved, like that can begin to break over time. And then also even within the manufacturing details themselves. So there's problems that can arise right at manufacturing. Like say like you're a very expensive luxury purse manufacturer. What can happen is you might have an agreement with a particular manufacturer to, let's just say, make 1,000 units of a particular purse. And then there's leftover materials of that purse, and so they may call it units 1001 through 1000 and 100. And so are those actually purses from the brand itself? I mean, it's the same materials, it's the same stuff, but clearly that's a theft product, right? That's not, even though it's the same materials, it's not coming from the brand. And when we think about from an AI context, we all use AI in here every single day. It does things like helps us with our text and our copywriting, with image designs. Has anybody seen the latest ChatGPT upgrade on the creating images? It's unreal. I created a couple quick flyers with that. Music and audio, we've seen countless artists who are getting copied and it sounds identical to them. Video and film, and that's only improving over time, where you can even make some short stories or short films with this. Gaming, interactive, and then also advertising. So these are all great things, right, that AI can do. But these are also all very terrible things that AI can do when put into the wrong hands or used for the wrong reasons. I was just at a big conference in Las Vegas called the Shop Talk Conference. And it's a big conference around brands. As you guys can tell, those are the types of customers that we go after. And everybody was talking about AI and how they're using AI for product descriptions or how they're using AI to enhance their processes and these sort of things. And I asked about 8 different brands, I go, what concerns do you have about AI or people using AI to steal your IP or to create and mimic your products? And every single one of them said that's not a concern or something that they've even thought about. It's really crazy to me when you think about it, because especially the fact that one of the biggest problems that I see with AI, or at least one of the things that's not talked about enough when it comes to AI, is what I call the data oracle problem, or validated data. Like where are the data sets? Sorry, where are the LLMs learning from? What's the data sets that are being learned from right now? Which I think is an argument as to why you want to have content that is tokenized or validated in some way, shape, or form. Blockchain probably being one of the preferred methods to do so before you run models against that overall. The biggest problem when it comes to AI is like who actually created this thing. And again, is it authenticated? So if something looks identical, and I met a woman and I complimented her purse because I'm in fashion technology, I pay attention to these sort of things. So she had a YSL bag, and pretty expensive purse. I was like, oh, that's a very nice purse you have. She goes, oh, thanks, it's a fake. Like, she was happy to tell me that it was a fake. And there's people that, frankly, don't care if something's fake. And I'm not here to judge how you purchase or what you do. However, if you were to spend thousands of dollars on a bag and then you found out it was fake, I think you'd be upset. If you pay, $20 to $100 on a fake bag, so be it. You don't really care. But if you pay thousands of dollars on a bag, on a Rolex watch, on any item for, a couple $100 on a pair of Nike shoes, and that's fake, that of course is going to become a problem. So not only is it hit to revenue to the brand, that's revenue that they're not getting, it's also a hit to the brand perception. You end up having a negative experience, a negative perception to that brand, even though the brand might not have had anything to do with it or it was out of their control. Not the same type of scenario, but kind of to articulate this point. Is anybody familiar with the Jersey Shore, that show? So there's a character or a person on that show called named Snooki, right? And so in the early days of the Jersey Shore, she would have a Louis Vuitton purse. Well, Louis Vuitton didn't like this, that she was using a Louis Vuitton purse. So they started sending her a free Gucci bags. So she would wear Gucci bags on the show instead of Louis Vuitton purses. I highlight, obviously that's not the same as AI, but I highlight that to show just how important the brand perception is to these brands and how they think about who's even using the products that they have in place. So again, as you can imagine, if you have unvalidated data running AI, you can create some pretty interesting negative opportunities for the brand. Do you have a question?
A lot of the goods that you think is fake is actually pre-owned. So it's pre-owned and sold in a smaller market, like a cheaper market, and sold cheaper. And so it's not exactly not manufactured by, let's say, Louis Vuitton, but it might have been pre-owned by someone else who's now sold it for cheaper in a secondary market.
So I would say that's incorrect. That's a scenario that happens. It's not a most scenario by any means. Yes, very much do people sell secondary market products, but again, that's another problem, is when you sell on the secondary market, is knowing if it's actually real or fake on the secondary market as well. So when you, for example, if you were to purchase a high-end bag, nowadays they have RFIDs inside of them already, and then typically you're going to get like a piece of paper that says like, hey, this bag is from Prada or Gucci or Yves Saint Laurent or something like that, right? And so when you sell that bag, you should sell it with that digital certificate of authenticity. But the secondary market is actually where a lot of duplicates, fake duplicates happen at a very high rate. So this is a Louis Vuitton wallet that I purchased, about a $400 wallet or so. I saw this same exact wallet in New York City, someone selling it on the street, and I bought it because I should have it for this type of conversation, for $25. And it looks identical. Like when you see the two together, like the tan is like slightly, on the tan on the outside is the same, on the inside the tan was slightly different, but everything from the font, the embossing, all of that is identical, right? And so it very likely could be made in the same factory, or the dupe is really good. We talked, and this is not, and I know we're talking about luxury items right now. This happens across the board, by the way. There's a very famous cup, water cup manufacturer that they get a lot of dupes on Amazon. So third-party sellers will sell fake versions of these cups, and they're so good that they get sent back to the direct manufacturer or the brand, and sometimes the brand can't tell if it's theirs or not. So therein lies problems that now they have to have a chain of custody essentially around the purchase transaction to really validate and make sure. Another issue that can arise too in similar contexts is say the brand sells an authentic purse, that person buys a purse, but then they return it and they send back a fake purse. And now that fake purse is basically in their line, and then they sell that purse to someone else. So these are all the types of problems that arise. And so the reason why I'm stating all these things is because this really proves kind of just more on this whole fake issue that takes place. And again, sorry. Also, this happens in shampoos, in beauty products, in makeup, pharmaceutical drugs, alcohol, auto parts. I mean, a lot of these things can be fatal if you buy a fake product, right? Like if you buy fake alcohol or something that has like, they can have like different gases or whatever inside the alcohol itself can be fatal. There was a case of that happened in Indonesia a few months ago.
So when you return some things, they sell somewhere else.
Oh yeah. Sometimes, I mean, it depends, but yeah, do you work at Amazon or used to work at Amazon?
Yeah.
Oh, the reason I'm asking that is because Amazon sometimes won't do it like direct, like they'll let you know that it has, been slightly altered or so forth. So if the product is in the same, condition and it's returned, yeah, they'll sell that to someone else.
They'll sell it new.
Correct. As long as it's not used, right? So
As long as it doesn't appear used.
as long as it doesn't appear used, yeah. Yeah, they'll resell that.
Cheap crap just gets thrown away a lot of the time, or given
Right.
to charity. But you'll occasionally get something from Amazon that was obviously open before.
Like even razors. Stuff like that.
No, it's probably not stuff like that. We're talking more about like high-end stuff, like higher-end stuff. But yeah, if it's in Amazon, like often what they do is they just have like a whole nother channel where they sell like lightly used or like light returned, or I actually buy stuff through that all the time because you can get a really good discount when you do it that way. But I'm talking about more like, yeah, hey, if someone returns a brand new purse and, on the surface, all they did is open up the box and, put it back, yeah, you might get that same purse.
Anything that can be easily counterfeited that you buy from Amazon is probably counterfeit. It's just a piece of plastic that looks, you don't know, because I think they're still doing it. They just put the same barcodes on whatever people send. So when you order something, it doesn't have to be the one that the actual manufacturer sent. It just has to be identified as that product, and they'll send it to you as it's real.
Well, yeah, what you're identifying there is a lot of like the human error that just takes place like within, and it's like it might not even be malintent. It's just like, yeah, hey, this looks the same to this, and we're sending it through. A lot of that kind of stuff happens. A lot of these brands get thousands of sample products sent to them, and they get pulled out of a box and taken one place or the other place, and just no malintent. It's just you have a lot of people going in the same areas, and then things get lost. So we essentially have identified this product problem. There's $3 trillion in counterfeit goods annually across all these types of products. And so we see the solution as being RWAs for commerce. So what Niftmint does is we create a digital twin of a physical product to serve as that source of truth. I think of it as a digital certificate of authenticity. And so that helps solve the authentication and the counterfeit problem. And what's interesting is it also helps with what we call the engagement problem. So one of the biggest problems that brands have is they don't understand how you consume the product. So they know that you went to the website and you purchased it. They know that you visited the app or you did these all other things. But they have no idea that you're wearing the shoes, that you're wearing the hat, that you took the jacket and climbed and hiked up a mountain. They don't have any insight into this. But if you think about every tech company or every IoT or enabled company, a lot of their value is tied up in what a daily active user is, right? Like how many people are using an iPhone, or how many times was a certain show watched on Netflix, and these sort of things. So by creating these tokenized digital twins of a physical product, you can now create an engagement opportunity for that end consumer and say things like, hey, wear this hat to the TF Labs office during Decentralized AI Day and earn cash back, rewards, points, tokens, like whatever marketing behavior that brand wants to introduce. And so we like to think of ourselves as like Stripe, but for tokenization. We're essentially all API based to make this happen on that brand side. And one of the things that we talk about a lot with brands is when they think about what a digital experience is, most brands and frankly most people think digital is looking on your computer, your phone, or like an iPhone device. My hypothesis or my point of view is that's not a digital experience. That is an analog experience on a digital device. In order to in fact make that, and to clarify, I'm speaking from a product context, I'm speaking from a commerce context. So to make a product essentially digital, you in fact have to tokenize it. Because when you tokenize it, now you're essentially adding like that digital life to it. That means it can live inside of the website, the header, the footer, the PDP page, the product display page, but it can also have a life outside of the network as well. And that's one of the biggest values that we see tokenization bringing to call it a real world use case where people engage with it. So part of our engagement solution is really just around rewarding and supporting people in their shopping behavior and in their shopping habits. So whether that be on-site or how they use it. And so you're probably wondering how this happens. So essentially, like I mentioned, a lot of these luxury brands already have RFIDs in them. We're also at this very interesting inflection point where by 2026 in the European Union, every clothing item is going to need to have an RFID or an NFC chip inside of it. And that's the reason why that's to happen is to help with understanding the full life cycle of a product, helping with fast fashion and eliminating fast fashion, and also helping with counterfeit goods. We're the perspective though that doesn't actually solve the problem. It solves like 90 to 95% of the problem. And again, when you tokenize that problem, when you tokenize that item, that's what gets it to 100%, because now you can incentivize and reward people for using it, which means you understand how that NFC or how that product is working within the wild. You could even set up things like saying like, hey, once you dispose of this thing or get rid of it, you can get rewarded or get something and replace and exchange. And you're able to do that when you have that one-to-one digital connection. And so if we think about these examples that we were talking a little moment ago, where we're talking about like returning a purse and then someone switching it, that also solves that problem for the brand, right? So if they buy it and then it gets returned, and there's, that digital twin is not the same as what is the RFID that's in the purse, now they know that something got messed up. So we've done this in a proof of concept way with a handful of brands, like T-Mobile and Kiss Beauty. Ligonier Ministries is actually my favorite customer to talk about. They're a faith-based Christian ministry. And the reason why I think they're very interesting is because what they ultimately care about is preserving content. And just preserving different content items. And so when we think about like historical, right, history goes to the victors, and you think about like kind of how history can change over time. Yes, we're talking about how this applies to brands and products, but I think it applies the same way to just content overall, whether that be historical content, religious content, that sort of thing, educational content. And on the bottom side, I gotta update those numbers on the right, but we think about this as like, we don't care about welcoming people into Web3. We do that from a TF Lab standpoint when we host events, but as Niftmint as a company, we're not here to educate our customer or our brands like what Web3 is or how to use Web3 or how to use crypto. We're just here to provide what we believe to be a better experience than what currently applies today. And the reason why is because most people outside of this room don't care, right? Like they don't have that issue or they don't care about it. But they do care about the problems around that. They just don't necessarily see it from like, oh, crypto solves this or blockchain solves it. They're just like, I need something to solve it. So we abstract all of the crypto from the end consumer. We create wallets for each individual. They're multi-sig, but we handle that for them. And same on the brand side, they don't have to have crypto, we handle their wallets. Now, if one day the world changes and everybody holds their own keys in their own wallet, we just change a few lines of code and we, either create new wallets for them or have them create their own and we can send that. It's just, that's not the world we live in just yet. And just kind of tell you how we make money. We basically charge a basic SaaS model to make this happen. We're going after the $6.3 trillion commerce market. So when everybody talks about tokenizing financial assets, they're talking about a $10 trillion market being financed. And so what I love to say is commerce is the one thing that every single person does. We all transact in the world, right? Like from those of the lowest economic status to the highest economic status, you have to transact to survive. You don't necessarily have to participate in healthcare. You don't even necessarily need to participate in the financial sector. Obviously, it's good that you do, but you don't necessarily have to. But you have to participate in commerce. So last is essentially, well, all we're really talking about at the end of the day is creating trust from the origin from the point of origin, and understanding the provenance of what you've built and created. So the things that we always talk about when it comes to crypto and blockchain and Web3, but applying that to the commerce vertical. And then just last, a little bit about, oops, wrong. Oh, this is wrong back. Anyways. So that's essentially us, and yeah, I'd love to answer any questions if people have them. Good.
So, if certain products have or will eventually include an RFID tag or an NFC chip in them, isn't it possible for a counterfeiter to purchase one of those items, get a reader for that particular thing, and then duplicate the chip and put it in their counterfeit item?
Yeah, no, you're right. That is definitely a possibility to be able to do that. Some ways that we think about combating that to start is when you create so ideally when you create the digital twin, you basically create you create that stamp, right? And it comes from a point of origin. So there'd be like call it a Rolex wallet. And so any RFID, or sorry, any product that would be created would come from the Rolex wallet. So if once that happens, if like let's say I created a digital twin outside of that, or I mapped it, it wouldn't come from like the same point of origin, right? It would come from like the Jonathan wallet, and so now there would be like some sort of break. There's like some sort of error in the break. And then same on the RFID side, like you can clone it, but then there's also like, call it like date settings and things like that, right? And so at some point there becomes like these slivers that kind of show you that there's been some sort of corruption that has taken place. And so what we got to do is figure out the best way to measure those, so we can say like, wait a second, even though this is the same number or whatever, something's been altered here because of timestamps.
Wouldn't there essentially be a unique serial number for every product? And so if suddenly there were 10 of those showing up, you would know that one is correct.
That's exactly it, yeah.
I know people on Amazon outside of chips who get counterfeited a lot have started putting in little slips of paper that says, you could check this number on our website and we know vaguely that it was real, and if you don't get the right one, if we start seeing duplicates of that number, we'll know what's going on, so please do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about the dark side of all this? People are going to say, Alex is what replaces putting chips in t-shirts, and I was like, do I want a chip in my t-shirt?
Yeah, there's so many things.
I immediately think, okay, we're going to be surveilled now, so.
Yeah, no, so that's a very valid point. So our perspective on that, it's, we are incredibly surveilled already by our cell phones. Like if you carry a cell phone with you, you're surveilled. And so the way we look at it is it has to be permission and voluntary. So like if you want to earn from the brand, then you essentially.
Right, but that kind of chip can be tracked when you're walking by a node of something, right? So
it can. No, you're right. It can. And yeah, I mean like that's. No, you're definitely.
You're going to see this in a spy movie within the next 5 years.
Well, not only that is
being tracked by their t-shirt.
I mean, NFCs are also getting better and better, right? So like right now, like you have to hold your phone directly to it.
Right.
It's not going to just like pick up in the wild per se, but over time it's going to improve.
They track trucks like that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to scan.
You have to
they're
scan
not they're not GPSs.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be a so the NFC, for example, is basically powered by like the little bit of energy that your phone puts up to it, right? However, to your point, like that's going to improve. Like over time, that probably very well in fact happen where you can get kind of measure throughout there. But again, our point of view is more about you you have it be permissioned, you have it be volunteered, and you do incentivize that person for it, based off of how they interact with you.
Although it's interesting, you say that in Europe, they're gonna mandate this,
Yeah,
so.
So,
Seems like there'd be more pushback there.
I think there's a little bit of nuance here. There's a very clear distinction between RFID and NFC. So NFC essentially implements some sort of a challenge response mechanism where the chip has a secret which you cannot exfiltrate. The reader makes a request and gets a unique response back. So that's very secure, and that's how things like Android Pay and Apple Pay and all these things
Right.
work. But on the RFID side of things, it's absolutely weak
It's
in
just
terms of
you
security.
pass by
All it gives you is just
Yeah,
a
there's no point of.
there's a 10-digit
organizing
code.
with an
So
RFID, like,
yeah, if I'm a knockoff goods manufacturer, I can trivially clone an RFID tag. But so the problem is that the cost of an NFC chip is an order of magnitude more than that of an RFID chip. But so I guess if it comes to a point where you can make NFC chips cheap enough, and that's eventually going to happen.
yeah.
This certainly will.
But they're still, I mean, they're like, we're talking like
yeah,
pennies.
they're cheap already.
Or less than fractions of pennies at scale. But yeah, go ahead.
Jonathan, wanted to ask you one thing. First point is, if you are in the luxury space, your product in itself should be something that is very difficult to clone. Otherwise, like, a person will buy a Lamborghini because it looks like a Lamborghini. He'll not carry a certificate like, hey, I bought a Lamborghini. But the second thing is, I've noticed this, like, drinks companies like Coca-Cola, they had a business arm which was recycling bottles and re-put, like an entire bottle recycling process where they put the Coke back in the bottle. But they had issues that these bottles might fall in the wrong hands, would fit something random into it, and then they'll sell it as Coke, and that will tarnish their brand image. How do you see both these points? Because
Yeah.
I don't think, like, if I'm buying something that is a luxury item, it should be differentiable in itself. I do not want to carry a certificate. But Coke would be interested in that aspect to ensure that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
That's
so,
what it-
all we're talking really about on the luxury side is just digitizing, archaic process that they already have and then token. I mean, so like, people already, have these. On your Coke example though, yeah, very much so. I mean, I think it applies, I'm gonna use a slightly different example because I think it's easier for people to understand because from a price point perspective. But, wines and spirits, right? So like if you have like a bottle of tequila, you buy it directly from the manufacturer, you're gonna have a level of trust. But most tequila is actually, or most wine and alcohol is sold through distributors, right? It's not sold through that. So now you have to have a layer of trust with the distributor, which of course these distributors are reputable. But again, the further and further removed that you start to get, now it's like, hey, like what's happening, here overall. So I think, in that example, like at manufacturing, you have something inside of the lid, or you have something like that, or you open the lid and then like that's what you scan. Something that like uniquely identifies that essentially to it. So now like, hey, like this hasn't been tampered or altered, etc. And the other thing too is in that from an engagement perspective is imagine, being the tequila manufacturer being able to reward you for using this, or you have, you update the metadata and you say like, oh, this is what I did when I drank this bottle of tequila, like we drank this at,
Proof of consumption.
yeah, I mean like, so now like, that's what I really like about the commerce context when it comes to blockchain, is that a lot of the stuff that people talk about for like DeFi and like these other things that are interesting but kind of feel like you have to do these weird behaviors, like it's actually behavior that you already do in a commerce context. Like people are trying to earn rewards or tokens, when they purchase, and they are trying to, do like these quests and, talk about what they did. Like those things are pretty common when it comes to the commerce context.
Understood.
Cool. All right, well, thanks everybody.